let's say it's your founder or someone else who's an internal thought leader in your organization. If they're not already posting regularly on LinkedIn, they need to be, because there's huge opportunities. DJ, you know this, huge opportunities organically on LinkedIn without paying a dime. But then now with these thought leader ads, we can then promote those posts and they perform super well. I think this is the biggest thing that we can do is leverage the cheaper costs, the higher engagement, those personal profiles, especially if you can have those posts contain very personal video. We see that perform time and time again.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of the E-commerce Traffic and Conversion Podcast. I'm your host, DJ Sprague. My co-host, Scott Brandley, is out today. We have a very special guest, AJ Wilcox. AJ, how are you doing today?
Oh, DJ, doing awesome. So great to see you. It's been years since we've seen each other in person.
Right, I know. We first met in person at that theater, and you doing a wonderful seminar on LinkedIn ads. And I still have my LinkedIn water bottle that you gave me. I don't know, what was that, 5 years ago?
Nice.
So that's part of my water bottle collection now. So those that don't know you, I'd like to kind of give a high level so people understand, who is AJ Wilcox? Well, in my words, he is the guru, godfather par excellence of LinkedIn ads. AJ Wilcox is a LinkedIn ads pro who founded B2Linked.com, the LinkedIn ads agency. In 2014, he's managed over $150 million in spend on the platform. They're official LinkedIn partners. He's the host of the LinkedIn Ads Show podcast and has managed 5 of the world's top 10 LinkedIn ads accounts. He's a ginger and triathlete. He lives in Utah with his beautiful wife and 5 adorable kids, and his company car is a wicked fast go-kart. It sounds like unicorns and rainbows in your life, AJ. I love it.
I've worked very hard to get 5 things I can say about myself that work great.
Fantastic. I'm camping out at your house. So tell us how you got involved in LinkedIn ads. I know you've been a pioneer in this space, and we've known each other for at least 5 years. And I know back in the beginning, you were kind of a bit of a unicorn. But tell us how you got into it.
Yeah, so my background, I never would have, if you had asked me, 15 years ago, you think you're ever going to be the LinkedIn ads guy? No way. I started out as an SEO and a Google ads guy early on in my career. And I went to go work for a pre-IPO SaaS software company back in 2011. And so I went in as their first digital marketer. I'm talking to the CMO, my new boss, and I'm laying out my strategies for everything I want to do with search, display, SEO. And I remember her saying, "Oh, all that sounds great. Go ahead and execute it. But just so you know, we started a pilot with LinkedIn ads about 2 weeks ago. See what you can do." And I didn't want to look stupid to my new boss. So I saluted and said, "Yes, ma'am, absolutely." And what I did is I took the same strategies I was already leveraging for Google ads and did exactly the same thing on LinkedIn. Had no idea what I was doing. But about 2 weeks later, my sales rep, one of them comes up to me and goes, "Hey, AJ, we don't know what you're doing over here, but we're fighting over your leads. Keep it up." So I jump into our CRM at the time to be like, okay, what leads is he talking about? Where are they coming from? And to that point, every single lead he mentioned was coming from LinkedIn. And I went,
Wow.
Oh, okay, I better pay a little bit more attention to this platform. So over the next 2.5 years, I kept investing, turned that into LinkedIn's largest spending ads account. And then after running the biggest account in the world, I went, okay, there's got to be more companies than just this one that could use LinkedIn ads. And that's when I started B2 LinkedIn in 2014.
That's amazing. You just kind of by default got into it and got your feet wet and figured it out, and obviously generated a lot of leads and a lot of revenue. And since then, you've created your podcast and your agency. By the way, I see you everywhere. So I'm taking some courses on CXL, and you've got some great courses in CXL. You have some great courses on LinkedIn, of course. I'm sure you've got courses elsewhere, but your content is first class, and I love it. So
thank you.
Tell us well, you're very welcome, and thanks for creating that great content. But tell us how LinkedIn as an ad platform differs from other ad platforms, and why would people use LinkedIn?
Well, I have to preface this by saying LinkedIn ads are really expensive. And so the immediate question is, okay, if you're paying a premium for LinkedIn ads, which is, it's oftentimes 3 to 5 times more expensive than Meta, which is its closest cousin. Why in the world is that worth it? And I've proven over and over again, it is absolutely worth it. And it's because when you look at something like Meta, it knows who you are personally and what you're interested in, but it doesn't know who you are professionally. LinkedIn, on the other hand, does. LinkedIn knows, as long as people put their data in, which they do, LinkedIn knows every job you've ever worked at, every company size, what skills you have on your profile, what groups you've joined. And so what that means for me is I can go and target a specific kind of business user all the way down to very specific parameters. You have to have this skill, you have to have this title in this size of company, in this industry. And because of that ability, especially for those who are in B2B marketing, where deal sizes, they take a long time, it's really hard to find the one decision maker. They're worth a lot of money. It becomes very worthwhile to advertise on LinkedIn. So that's what we get. The ability to target people by who they are professionally, that you just can't get on any other platform.
Yeah. That professional profile, the skills, like you said, the professional skills, that's really interesting. And of course, it makes sense because when you're creating your LinkedIn profile, you have your work history, you have your skills. Does it get into anything like your education, courses, certifications? Okay, so it's going to aggregate you
can at least do education, like where you went to school, what degree you got, what you studied. Those are the 3 that we get on the education side.
Okay. What about keywords like from the recommendations that people leave for you? Is it picking up on that?
It's not, unfortunately. That would be really cool.
Okay.
There is a bit of a workaround. So right now, what LinkedIn has is a beta where those, if you have a sales team who's using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, they can search for a keyword, find profiles with that, and they can tag that as a lead or someone that they want to be in touch with. And it's in beta, so hopefully this comes in the next coming 3-6 months. They're going to be able to pass all of those individuals from Sales Navigator over into the company's LinkedIn ads, and then we can target just those specific people. So that's how we're going to get keywords that you couldn't find either as a skill or a group they've joined.
Okay, interesting. I'm surprised they're not tapping into skills. That seems like something that. Okay, so with all of the changes in privacy policies and GDPR, et cetera, where is LinkedIn going? Is it becoming a little bit more difficult to target on the granular level, or is that going to continue unfettered?
It hasn't been too bad. For any data that you've given LinkedIn specifically and keyed it in, this is my job title, this is the company I work at, these are my skills. For all of those things, we can and will likely be able to keep targeting by those facets. But when GDPR kicked in, and just recently, I forget what order it was that they created this for, but it's the European Economic Area. They said, you can't target our people by things that you have learned about them that they haven't explicitly given you. So things like, I think it's groups. I think it's what groups they're members of. We can't target it by anymore. And a few other inferred factors like age or years of experience. So I anticipate this is probably going to spill over to the US, but right now it's just a good chunk of Europe.
Okay. That's good insight. You mentioned deal size. Obviously, ROI or ROAS is always a critical metric when buying ads and ad platforms and strategies. So what is the sweet spot for a deal size for a B2B marketer?
I've usually found it to be about $10,000 lifetime value or deal size, where if you're going to earn less than that, LinkedIn might be too expensive to actually make that work. But if it's more than that, totally green lights. And it's not a hard and fast rule. We've had many clients who we've proven that we can get cold traffic to warm to a deal in under like $1,200. And so if you can prove like, hey, as long as I spent, as long as I earn more than $1,200 for each of my deals, then I'm profitable. But it did, admittedly, it took quite a bit of testing and quite a bit of money to get to the point where the account can actually accurately predict what that ROI is going to be.
Okay. So $1,200 is a reasonable CAC or customer acquisition cost in your experience using LinkedIn?
Yeah, for them, it really was. I mean, they probably earned $4,000 or $5,000 for a deal, and it cost them $1,200 to generate the traffic for it. Totally made sense for them.
Yeah. Okay.
But many others, it depends on the product, depends on the sales team, depends on the need from your marketplace for what it is you offer. But we found that to be accurate.
The hook, right? The lead gen mechanism. Exactly.
Totally.
Okay. So what would be your scientific approach to creating a powerful LinkedIn ad strategy?
I think you want to think about it in multiple parts. We know that cold traffic, someone who's never heard of you before, they are not ready to talk to your salesperson. They're not ready to take a demo of your product or start a trial. They're just not ready yet. But we know that LinkedIn is the most powerful platform of reaching the kinds of people that would make ideal clients. So the very first strategy is, let's define who that audience is, who's our cold audience, and let's show them something of great value. We love short videos, just 15, 20-second videos from a founder or an influential leader at the company, speaking directly to them, giving them a tip, a trick. Things like that are very powerful. We found documents. Here's a free document. Here's a quick slideshow showing you an update of what's going on in your industry. That kind of content does really well as that first touch, saying, we're not asking anything of you. We just want to introduce ourselves and give you value. Then you can retarget those who've interacted with that content. And we call that our middle of the funnel. So now the middle of the funnel, you can offer something a little bit more engaging. So maybe it's not 15 or 20 seconds of video now. Maybe it's a 45-second video, or come join our webinar and I'm going to teach you a masterclass on this. Now they're a little bit more open to investing a little bit more time with you. Then you can you could retarget all of the people who interact at that stage, call them your bottom of funnel. And by that point, you know that they've had at least 2 positive interactions with your brand. And they've probably seen ads on 20, 30, 50 different occasions. Now it's a little bit more appropriate to ask them, like, hey, do you want to get a free quote? Do you want to get a free audit? Talk to sales, see if you can evaluate this for yourself. So that's how I think about the whole setup, is what is the free asset, the value, the hook that we can give someone to make them pay attention? And then what subsequent value can we feed them until they're ready to talk to the sales team?
Okay. Standard marketing approach, but it works on LinkedIn as any other platform, obviously. What have you seen in terms of content trends? Are you seeing anything that's getting more traction than others, vis-a-vis ebooks versus videos versus quizzes or white papers, or maybe it's a little piece of software? What have you kind of seen that's getting more traction lately?
Oh, I love this question. All right. So I have 2 very different standpoints or points of view on this. One is, back during COVID, if your ad didn't mention COVID, people didn't want to read it. It's like, as soon as you talk about the thing that's on everyone's mind, all of a sudden your posts, your ads got interacted with. And it was almost like people were so anxious to learn everything there was and understand the new world that we were in, that you needed to be relevant and timely for what was going on in their lives. We see something similar on major holidays. Like, if you can have your ad mentioning Christmas on the 24th, 25th, 26th, then they perform well. But that's also a lot of setup for just running ads for 3 days. So yeah, there's relevance to the topic. But then we've also found that here's a really cool test that we ran on several occasions. We took a piece of content that was what LinkedIn used to call their big rock content. It was like one major piece of research, and they would break it up into little rocks. So they could say, let's take this research report and make it into a 2-minute explainer video, a 1-page checklist, a 3-page ebook, a 9-page guide, something like that. And then we would run the same ads, but just call it something different. I mean, it's the same name, but you say download the ebook versus download the guide versus download the explainer video, whatever. Right. And what we found is conversion rates, click-through rates, they were all near identical across the board, no matter what the kind of content was. And my takeaway from that was, the format, the medium is not as important as the problem that you're purporting to solve. Mm. And if you say, I'm going to solve your problem, here's the piece of content that's going to do that, they don't care most don't care. We obviously have content preferences, but most don't care. Is that going to be a 9-page, a 3-page, a 1-page, or a 48-page thing that's going to solve that?
I love that, because that's really what it comes down to. The most effective ads, headlines, topics are really solving problems. And that's why we create buyer personas and avatars in the beginning, right? We don't really care, what their education is, what they drive, et cetera. What we really care about is what is their problem and how can we solve their problem? Because if you're not solving problems, then you're not solving, what your customers care about. You need to address what keeps them up at night, right?
Amen. Could not have said it better myself.
So that's great. I love the fact that your tests reveal that it's really not the medium in terms of the type of content. It's really just hitting that problem and solution. And if you can do that, whether they prefer video versus audio versus text, it doesn't really matter because they still want to solve their problem.
That's right. And what was so funny is I actually thought in those tests, I thought that my hypothesis was the content does matter. The people are going to prefer a webinar differently than they would prefer an ebook or something. And I'm really good at running tests that prove myself wrong. I think it's like a little reminder to be a little bit humble on the side that, hey, I can't really predict what this is going to do, but I do love to evaluate the data.
That's why we test, because we've got to have a hypothesis, test it, and roll with the best results. So with all that said, and your vast experience in the space, who should be running LinkedIn ads?
Well, I know that this is an e-commerce podcast, and so I don't want to ignore you as e-commerce listeners. Quite frankly, we haven't seen great applicability with LinkedIn ads towards selling an e-commerce product. But what we have seen is that LinkedIn ads is fantastic for hiring. And as long as you are trying to hire white collar professionals in your e-commerce business, it's a great place to do that for very inexpensive, mind you. It's also a really good way to find those strategic partners, alliances, influencers who you can help partner with to promote your brand. And LinkedIn does that extremely well. And again, all of those things, very reasonable. And we can dive super into those. Outside of that, usually it's do you have a high enough lifetime value? We said $10,000 to justify using LinkedIn's premium advertising to reach that customer. And if yes, it doesn't matter whether you're B2B, B2C, trying to think of any other qualifier. It really doesn't matter, product, service, whatever, as long as it makes sense to actually reach a business user, then LinkedIn ads works great.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously that makes sense. We're talking to business people, partners. I love that strategy. I love that idea of using LinkedIn and a B2B platform to find and engage partners, affiliates, influencers. I really never thought about that. Could you kind of delve into that a little bit more and explain how that could work?
Yeah. So just last year, so we've had this less than a year at this point of recording, LinkedIn allowed us to start promoting an individual's post, whereas before we could only promote a company's post. Then it was just last month. It's actually been 2 or 3 months now at this point. We've been able to promote an individual's post, but they had to be an employee of your company, which was kind of annoying. But now, as of a couple months ago, they let us start promoting the post of someone who is not an employee. You do have to get their permission. They have to give LinkedIn permission to have their post sponsored. But now, if you can imagine, if you can find an objective third party, or don't have to be objective, but some third party, maybe it's a customer of yours who could post or has posted about you. You could promote their post in the feeds of those who would make good partners, good customers, good relationships. You can do the same thing with, you go find an influencer, say, hey, can you post this? Can we sponsor it? Can we co-market together? And to put it into perspective, the average post on LinkedIn that comes from a company gets about 0.5% click-through rate. Anytime we promote an individual's post, it usually gets somewhere between a 3 to an 8% click-through rate. So we're talking orders of magnitude more engaging as a post. And I'm sure we all know the way that advertising platforms work is the higher the engagement rate, the lower the platform has to charge you. So normally costs per click on LinkedIn from a company are like $10 to $16 per click, which is crazy. But when you start advertising an individual's post, now you're getting traffic for, 80 cents to $3 a click. And it totally changes the game.
Now you're in that meta range, right? In terms of a cost per click and a Google Ads. That's really amazing. I had no idea that was possible. And I think it's genius to take that user-generated content, UGC, which has more authenticity, more transparency, quite honestly, more trustworthiness, right?
Yeah.
And then boosting or sponsoring or promoting that content because people are going to believe it more. And going from 0.5% click to a 5 up to an 8% click rate is amazing. I mean, that's arithmetic growth.
Yeah. We just had a client this week getting an 11% click-through rate. I mean, it's crazy. As individuals, we love individuals' content way more than we love to see the logo of a company that we have no idea who's behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That I had no idea that was possible. I love that. That's truly earth-shattering because there's so much more you can do with that. And that actually, at that price point and that click-through rate, allows many more brands to be, competitive in that LinkedIn ad space, because now the cost per click goes down, the traffic goes up, and your ROAS can be dramatically improved.
And you've gotten to use the same premium targeting the whole time. Just because you're promoting a personal post doesn't mean that you have any fewer options to target and get so precise on your ideal target audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I love that. It's a fantastic strategy. Are you seeing a lot of people do that, or is that just still so new that it's not widely adopted yet?
I would say it's not super widely adopted, but a few times I've been asked, because I do a lot of public speaking, a few times I've been asked show us some examples of thought leader ads. I don't have to go very far just scrolling down my news feed until I see, at least one, if not two. So I think advertisers are starting to figure this out. They are a little bit tricky to use. They're quite limited. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense the way that LinkedIn has you set them up. And so I think that's the barrier standing in the way of people using them. But even still, in just the last 3 months, I've had all of my LinkedIn reps hop on calls and say, we hear you loud and clear. The prices on LinkedIn are rising very quickly, and we're digging internally. We're trying to figure out what's causing this. Stand by. I know what's causing it. It's thought leader ads. Because they have such high engagement rates, they end up winning every auction they're in. And so those who are using them, they pay less and they steal all the impressions and traffic from brands who aren't using them. So we're going to keep seeing this.
Wow. Yeah, this could be the whole new frontier, and this could dramatically change. So theoretically, I could have my friend AJ Wilcox do a post about shopper approved, and I could boost that. I could sponsor
Absolutely.
that. Okay. And that would obviously, be from the user or client side, that is going to be more authentic, more transparent, more trustworthy. So that's really an exciting opportunity. Thanks for that. So tell us, what are 3 things you look for when creating a LinkedIn ads campaign, or what are the 3 criteria you would recommend a client use in their campaign?
Yeah, it's always the same. No matter which social media platform I'm wanting to advertise on, it always comes down to 3 pillars, 3 elements. I call this my ammo because it goes by A, M, and O. It's your audience. This is who it is you're targeting. Your message. This is the ad format you choose, what the ad looks like, your imagery, your copy, all that. And then O is your offer, what you're offering your prospect in exchange for their attention. And so if you have all 3 of these elements, you know who your audience is, you have an offer that's going to be valuable for them, that is going to help solve the problems that keep them up at night. And then once you have those 2 things, the message comes very easily. How do you just describe the value that you're giving to them? Those 3 things a LinkedIn ads account make.
Okay. So you've obviously done thousands of LinkedIn ad campaigns. Do you help your clients with their messaging and their offer?
Yeah, it depends a little bit. We have a couple different pricing structures. One, where if the client brings everything, they're like, we already have ad copy, we already have landing pages, all that. A slightly higher price where we're going to help them develop the messaging, develop the creative and all that. But absolutely, we keep really tight tabs on what's working on the platform, what's not, what their competitors are doing. And it allows us to work with them, because obviously no one knows their customers and prospects like they do, but we work with them to come up with what is the right kinds of hooks, the right kinds of offers that will get the right attention.
Okay. Can you see a dud? In other words, a client hands you their creative, their messaging, their offer, their ad, their landing page. Can you kind of see the dud before it goes live and help them avoid wasted dollars?
I would say more often than not I can, but if we're talking like 60% of the time, that means there's still 40% of the time where I'm really surprised. Like, hey, I thought this was going to work great, and it sucks. Ultimately, your prospects are going to vote with their clicks, with their interactions, what they like and what they don't like. And sometimes it means that what I predict, I'm wrong. But most of the time, I know what's going to get attention.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience about LinkedIn ads before we get into our $1 million question?
If you are used to advertising on Meta, LinkedIn looks very similar, but there are a couple ways where it's very different. In one way, Meta, when you advertise with them, you want to use very broad audiences. Don't tell it a whole lot about who it is you're looking for. You want their AI to find the right people. LinkedIn, it's totally opposite. We like really tight groupings. And this works very well to our advantage, where we could take a large audience, but break them up into smaller segments. And when we do that, we find that some of the segments outperform and we can feed them more of the budget. Some of those don't perform and we can starve them or shut them off entirely. And they almost act like a built-in focus group, where you show someone, you could show, here's an example. You could show just marketers who are decision makers, let's say 2 ads, and say, which one of these do you like better? Well, if it's all in one group, it's marketers who are manager and above, it's all messy, it's all combined, and you don't actually learn who likes what. You just know how that group performed. But I can break that out into 4 separate campaigns: marketing managers, marketing directors, marketing VPs, and CMOs. Put the same 2 ads in all of them. And now I find, oh, CMOs really like my content. And it's actually less expensive for me to reach someone at a chief level than it is manager, because of how they interact with the ads. And I'm getting discounts from them liking the content more. And then you find out who your ideal target audience really is.
Great. Yeah, those are some great strategies and insights. Fantastic. Okay. So for our legendary $1 million question, AJ, as an expert in LinkedIn ads, what's the one thing that you think would make the biggest impact on an e-commerce brand right now?
I think it is those thought leader ads. If you're, let's say it's your founder or someone else who's an internal thought leader in your organization, if they're not already posting regularly on LinkedIn, they need to be, because there's huge opportunities. DJ, you know this, huge opportunities organically on LinkedIn without paying a dime. But then now with these thought leader ads, we can then promote those posts and they perform super well. I think this is the biggest thing that we can do is leverage the cheaper costs, the higher engagement, those personal profiles, especially if you can have those posts contain very personal video. We see that perform time and time again.
Well, I always learn something from you, your content, your podcasts, your courses, but this was a really exciting idea and a great takeaway. So thank you for that. Tell us how we can get a hold of you and how people can get in touch with you and follow you.
Well, I'm sharing a lot of this kind of tips, tricks, strategies on LinkedIn. So come and connect with me there. I get a lot of connection requests and I don't accept them if I don't know where they're who they are. So if you wouldn't mind, just send me a connection request and personalize the invite. Say you heard me on DJ's show and I'd love to connect with you there. Also, if you just go to b2linked.com, our website, obviously it's going to be really easy to find our information there. And if you're a podcast listener, which you probably are if you're listening here, go search out the LinkedIn Ads Show podcast. I'm dropping weekly, really geeky stuff on LinkedIn ads that hopefully brings you a lot better performance.
It's a great podcast. And it's B, as in the letter B, numeric 2, right?
Correct.
Just to be clear.
And then the word linked. Yep.
Right. B2
Thanks
linked.
for clarifying on that.
You bet. I just didn't want people to go down a rabbit hole and not be able to find you. Well, thanks again, AJ. Always a pleasure. And we really appreciate you taking time to help educate and share your wealth of knowledge with our audience about LinkedIn ads. And again, reach out to AJ, b2linked.com, and follow him on his podcast. Great information. He's got some great courses on CXL, and you've got some great courses on LinkedIn as well. So have a great day. And thanks again for joining us on another exciting episode of the E-commerce Traffic and Conversion Podcast. Bye-bye.